for joining us and the pleasure of your time today. I think as a grouping, we are really trying to build wholesome individuals. And that's through mentorship, that's through talks like these, and that's through advice like we've just seen now. And I think it's going to make a difference in this country, especially in the ULP community and our world as it would be. Let me also thank Ian for coming again. Adam, sorry, for coming again. And the last time Adam came, he came in an Uber, so I thought today I'll give him a lift home, but he unfortunately not. Funny enough, Adam, myself, and Botabo are neighbors. We could have come in one car, really. We didn't. So yeah, I think my job is more simpler than what needs to happen. If I don't mess up Milton's name as well, I think I would be on a good path. Milton Nkosi used to be part of the BBC. He retired in January 2020. He was part of the Africa Bureau Analysts and Correspondents. And I think it's important for me to say that, as he said before, that the BBC is very finicky in terms of what you say. He's got his own MMN, which is a consulting business that he currently runs now. He spent quite a bit of time in South Asia, in Delhi, specifically in India. He was based in the UK. He covered Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, and the greater India. You know, we were talking just before this, and I was saying one of the people to tell stories in a very fascinating ways is Milton, and one day he'll give you that opportunity to do that. He's very well experienced, and he's got quite a long CV, which I don't always want to regurgitate. But as I was thinking, how am I going to introduce Milton today? I decided to watch Netflix as I work. So on Netflix, they're having a documentary about Senzo Maiwa's unfortunate demise. And a couple of the scenes, actually, I think in the first, second, and third episode, you see Milton outside Kelly Kumalo's house saying, "It was in this house that this..." And as an Orlando Pirates fan, I could imagine how he was feeling. But this is how this is what actually struck me about Milton. Apart from that, even today he decided to bring his grey hair with. Milton was there when Mandela came out of jail. He covered that. He then covered quite a lot of milestones in terms of the wars that happened, especially in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then, recently I saw him cover with the BBC the funeral of Tutu and the stories that he was sharing. And then he went on to ask Tutuzani if he was a billionaire. And in all those years, I've come to realize that this is a man who's been part of some of the most significant milestones of this country. And with that, I think as I introduce him, let's celebrate him for his contribution to this country and with the excellency that he has done in terms of his journalistic ability and what he has contributed. Milton Nkosi, over to you.
I am so embarrassed now. Thank you very much. It's good to be back here. It's good to see a full house. We are truly now in cruising altitude of the post-COVID world. We've done the climb. It was a little bit bumpy, but here we are, 35,000 feet above sea level, as they say on the plane. Thank you very much, Theo. That was such an exaggeration. Do not believe any word that Theo said. That makes me really old, and I feel so young. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And we have 3 panelists tonight, our esteemed guests, who I've been researching. Everything is on the record here. We're not hiding anything. I've been looking at your pictures and reading about what you like, what you don't like, and so on. And I'm quite amazed by the achievements, and we're really proud of you both. And we're proud of Edith, who is online, and hopefully, hello, Edith. It's good to see you. How's Malawi tonight? Good. We will connect.
It's great.
Fantastic. Great to hear your voice.
Thank you.
I've also been reading about you as well. So it's good to see you in person on the screen. Now, I will start by introducing our esteemed guests. And please bear with me. I've shortened their resume because they're long. They've done so much. But if we start to my far left, Mr. Thabo Molekwa, who I'm embarrassed and sad to say is a Kaizer Chiefs supporter. Not a good way to start a discussion with me. But we've declared all of that in our pre-chat earlier in the week. He is CEO and MD of Siemens Energy, Southern and Eastern Africa. He has more than 20 years of professional experience in both operational and leadership roles in asset-intensive and heavy industries, including consulting across Africa. His work experience covers organizations such as De Beers Mines, Saint-Gobain, DuPont, and Black & Veatch. More recently, he was the CEO of ThyssenKrupp Regional Office for Sub-Saharan Africa. He also serves as a member of boards here in South Africa, notably in the renewable energy sector, and was previously on the EU Business Chamber Board. Guys, we're talking big fish here. He qualified as a mechanical engineer from the University of Cape Town and has an MBA from Gibbs University of Pretoria. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thabo Molekwa. And to my near left, Adam Craig. My goodness. If you have time, just go and Google and see how much he does. We can't pack it all in here. But Adam joined IQ Business in September of 2009, and he was appointed CEO in November 2010. Education, Adam graduated in 1989 from the University of Warwick in the UK. I have a special place for Warwick University in my heart. With a BSc, first class, in management and computer science, and went on to do his MBA at IMD in Lausanne, Switzerland, 1996. Adam also has a diploma in marketing and is a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, MCIM, and is also an active member of the Institute of Directors and Young Presidents Organization. Previous companies and positions, he was Supergroup COO, Dimension Data Group Executive, Merchants, Pty Ltd, Accenture, Associate Partner, British Gas. This is the guy you want to meet when you leave, when we finish here. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Craig. And then now we come to Edith Gia, who is the Old Mutual Malawi CEO. Edith is a Malawian businesswoman and a corporate executive who is the Chief Executive Officer of Old Mutual in Malawi, Old Mutual Limited. She also sits on boards of approximately a dozen public and private Malawian companies and businesses. A dozen. She was born in Malawi and attended local elementary and secondary schools there. She was admitted to University of Malawi, where she graduated with a bachelor's degree, and later she studied at the University of Derby in the United Kingdom, where she obtained her master's degree. She's also a qualified chartered insurer since 2013. Edith is an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing and the Chartered Insurance Institute. She started out as an aviation fuels business manager at BP Malawi, serving in that capacity for over 6 years from 2001 until 2007. And then in 2007, she joined Old Mutual Malawi, and she rose through the ranks, many positions here to mention. And on 1 March 2017, she was appointed as substantive group CEO at Malawi, Old Mutual Malawi Limited, replacing Chris Kapanga, who retired. Ladies and gentlemen, Edith Gia. Now we start the conversation. I don't like this ladies first, Edith, so I will jump you for that reason. Adam, you are nearest to me. Can I please just start by asking you, how on earth do you do it? You have so much on your plate, and I'll come later on to explain some of your important work. But I was quite impressed by your, which many of us will be familiar with, the CEO sleep out. And why would you punish yourself to sleep in the cold to try and make a point?
Well, Milton, that was an experience over several years, in fact, which, having done it the first time, decided to do it again. And the whole point of the CEO Sleep Out was to really expose a very privileged group of people to understand what it's like to be out overnight in the cold of winter with nothing other than a cardboard box and some very limited shelter. And it really, I realized at 2 o'clock in the morning, when it felt like my bone marrow was freezing, that there was just this inner cold, that this was not a pleasant thing to be doing, and imagining that this was just one night in the year that I had to give up the safety and security and warmth of my bed and sleep on the street. And I'd never actually appreciated, if I can say, Milton, that when I saw homeless people in the middle of the day, when I was driving around Johannesburg and I would see them lying on a bank of grass, I used to consider them to be lazy. What on earth are they doing in the middle of the day sleeping? And it was only when I realized myself in the middle of the night, it's not possible to sleep because it's too cold, and it's not safe to sleep in the middle of the night. Find a warm, grassy bank with the sun shining, and that's the place to sleep in the day. So in the night, you actually have to be wide awake. So that was my experience.
That's brilliant. And that brings me to my next question, because here we are in the business of unleashing leadership potential. There is a leadership lesson there, which you learned, as you quite rightly point out. But I'd like you to share the anecdote of you having slept outside in the cold, then you're jogging in the morning, and you bump into this, you're with your dog, right? And you bump into this clearly homeless man. And you then talk to him and tell us about him.
My goodness, well, it's a while ago now, and really the experience, I think, of having been exposed to the challenges of being homeless and being out during the day and coming across homeless people on the street is just so leveling and so pivotal and so important, I think, in terms of really understanding and being able to relate to the challenge and trying to make sure that we provide opportunity to individuals that have fallen upon hard times. In very many cases, nothing that they have done wrong themselves, but because of circumstance that they have been really exposed to hard times.
No, thank you very much. The young man you met was from Nelspruit, and he had been traveling 5 days into Joburg, and he was robbed as he arrived, as Joburg likes to welcome visitors. And he lost everything. And just seeing in his eyes, you described this to someone, the fact that he'd been sleeping rough for the last 4 or 5 nights really brought it home to you, that the experience that you went through on the sleep out provides a connection and understanding that as you run these massive organizations, that you understand right from the bottom of where people come from and the empathy that is involved in that work.
You really have done your research, haven't you?
Listen.
Goodness me, wow.
I'm showing off.
I'm having a flashback to those about...
But it's very powerful. I thought about that, and I just felt you the way you described it. Yeah.
But Milton, if I can say that the obvious reaction to start with is one of mistrust or disbelief. How many times have you heard a hardship story from someone where you feel they may be actually using a story to advantage themselves or really to make a connection with strangers on the street? Very often we see people going from door to door. But this young man, there was just an absolute genuine fear. And I could see that he was freezing cold, that he had spent the night out, and he'd lost everything that he had, including a cell phone. What does one do when you've come to Johannesburg? He came to Johannesburg for a job. He was asked to come to Johannesburg for a job, and it was the people that he went to for the job that stole everything from him. It wasn't just a stranger that walked up to him and said, give me your stuff. He went for the job, and all of that was taken from him, and he was dumped away. So it was clearly a scam with people that were out to advantage themselves. So these situations are going on all the time.
And that's what leaders, when you're at the bottom end of the organization, you think, I've had that so many times in leadership where people say, they don't know what we're going through. You have no idea. If you listen to this, you have no idea, because they understand someone who's probably even lower than you, because they understand how a homeless person, because they've never slept outside themselves, So it's very important. Thank you so much. That is a leadership lesson if you didn't get it. And we welcome those at home. I know the CEO, Theo, welcome them. Hello to everyone watching at home. We love you. Keep logging in, load the data. Stay with us. Now I'm coming to you, Thabo. It is so great to have you here. You are such an inspiration. We are proud of what you do. You represent not just yourself or your family, you represent all of us. And we want you to keep climbing. Now, you grew up in Davidton. No secrets. I'm bringing out no secrets.
This is,
But I know David to be a tough township. And you then moved to live in Pretoria in the then Bophuthatswana. Tell us about your upbringing. We want to know, how do you get to where you are? Where did it actually start?
yeah, I think that's a flashback. Some flashbacks, as Adam has mentioned. Yeah, it's an interesting upbringing if you talk about what it looked like at the time. I think if you, at the time, you extrapolated your life, you would know where you're going to end up. We were quite active, turbulent times. And I think the part about living there and having to move to Bophuthatswana was on the back of trying to find a better education. I grew up amongst teachers. My parents were teachers. My aunts are teachers. It was the whole ecosystem of education, and I think that for me laid the foundation around. And I mean, they didn't have much to share, but I think the one important thing was education will give you wings. And if you really want to get anywhere else, you really need some good, strong wings. The little that we can impart onto you is an accessibility to that kind of education, at the time that was available, and opportunities. So I, a couple of things that have shaped life between the two, because I kept on going back to Davidton, and between Davidton and Pretoria, because I still have relatives there, was the importance of a different perspective and a different environment is what has helped me. Was one is, in a different environment, you are being helped to be in touch and in tune with the realities of what was happening on the ground, and maybe even a better slice of what was going on in South Africa by going to Davidton. But when you were in Bophuthatswana at the time, it was quite civil, everything was working and so on, and you could focus on education also. So those two kind of environments for me helped me to be a lot more closer and more in tune with what was going on, but at the same time gave me the ability to focus on thinking bigger and broader than where you are and where we are, and what else can I contribute to in the future. So those are for me the two different perspectives.
Tell us about how you got to mechanical engineering. I know you had an uncle who could strip an engine and put it together back again. Was that your inspiration?
No, you're good. Yeah, so it's quite interesting because he was quite obsessive. Late uncle. I remember he would come and fix a car, or my dad's car at the time, a Cressida, Toyota Cressida. So he would strip the engine, and my mother will come and say, "Listen, it's time for dinner." He says, "No, put it aside. I'll eat," and he would never eat. He would just be focused on that engine, and then they'll have to go rescue him under the engine of the car or underneath the car around 2 a.m. and say, "Listen, you now have to sleep. He hasn't touched the food," and so on. And it was always fascinating when you're working with him there, because of the learnings that you get. He didn't teach you only on bring a spanner. It was bring a spanner, I'm going to do this, and this is how it works. And it was always fascinating for me. So fast forward to when we get to matric and so on, we had different programs where we could get exposed to some of the science. Luckily, I enjoyed science. So where you could start assembling aspects and so on. And that's where kind of the love around either putting things apart, but more importantly, putting it all together, and that magic moment when you turn the key and the car starts. Mm-hmm. And it not only can start, but it can take you from point A to B and back. Was really, I think, what was ingrained in myself, and I think even right through my career, that's always been somewhere you put things together, and once you've put them together, see that they stay together for some time, is perhaps at the core of what I see engineering as.
So thank you so much. That's beautiful. In case you're missing it, mentorship. We all need a mentor. We need someone we can look up to, someone who inspires us, someone who delivers an engineer. So we want to put together our hands for the uncle. Heavenly applause. Edith, are you with us? This is your moment. I won't reveal too much, my sister, but I will just start by asking you to tell us about how you ended up where you are. We are proud of you. We need more of you. And I know that you are very much interested in the girl child and how you develop young ladies to become leaders in their own right. But I'm particularly interested, you can tell us where it all started, but can you just briefly, just tell me about how it feels to drive on a hot day between Blantyre and Lilongwe, as you did on Tuesday?
Right, Milton, yes.
What does it take? Mental strength, for, all of that.
Right, yeah. Thank you very much. Like I say, born and bred in Malawi. Growing up, my dream was to become a lawyer. And this was inspired through reading newspaper articles. I liked to read, and I still love to read. At that time in the 80s, I had followed certain news items around the Rivonia trials with the Nelson Mandela and the team defending themselves. And later on, I watched a movie, which actually, I think this was Danny Grover and Afra Woodard at some point, where they depicted the whole scene. I loved the passion, the confidence, and the fact that they were trying to stand up for what they believed in at that time. Going through primary school, secondary school, my dream was to become one such lawyer. In secondary school, I could not access law school immediately. So I needed to get into a program that could act as a platform to go into the next program. And I had another person who inspired me, a cousin who is late now. He had done a Bachelor's of Commerce in the University of Malawi, which is a public university. And being inspired with what he was at that time, I said, this is the way that I should take. I went through that program. I stayed. I loved what I was doing. And then 1996, I graduated. And my first job was with the BP, Malawi. I rose through the ranks, and my last job there was heading the aviation fuels business. I should say that for me, it was a very good training ground. At a certain point, I decided that I needed further challenge, and I changed. I was looking for opportunities, and this opportunity in Old Mutual came about. I had maybe underestimated the challenge. I think changing a career from the oil sector to the financial services was a bit hard. I think the first year for me was hard. The challenge of just trying to understand, just trying to navigate my way there, and also trying to succeed in what I was recruited to do. However, I think at the point where I actually think changed the game for me was to say this is where I'm at. I need to do the best. When you are in a society like where I am, jobs are scarce. And when you have an opportunity, it is a privilege. You need to actually take that privilege, and you need to also inspire others. So at that point, I said, I am going to make this happen for me. And I learned, I engaged with the people that had the skills and expertise. And yeah, 2007 to now, I've been in the financial services industry, and I should say that I am enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, what I really appreciate about this role is the privilege that you can actually start solving some of the challenges that you're facing as a society, and also influence other people to actually take that path. My diary as a CEO can change from day to day. I think 2 or 3 days ago when we first spoke, I needed to drive because there was something that I needed to do in Lilongwe. And it's part of the sacrifices that we make to be able to reschedule at short notice, to be able to be present elsewhere, do business, and then go on with your life. Thank you.
Thank you. I found that so inspiring. To drive 4 hours, it's no child's play between Lilongwe and Blantyre. I know you guys do the N1 here and all that. I don't want to quote Jacob Zuma about roads in Malawi. But I'm just saying you must appreciate what's going on here. So remember, sacrifice. This is what people put in when they are at the top. It's not just all smooth sailing. Thank you, Edith, for that story. Much appreciated. Adam, can I come back to you? I won't take you too far. But I'm really fascinated by the amount of work you are doing in terms of uplifting the youth and bringing everybody on board. For instance, I'm very interested in hearing about the Tomorrow Trust. And I was quite blown away by that. And I genuinely, when we met, I genuinely wondered, how do you do it, actually? Because there are just 24 hours in a day. And some of us kind of, we sleep and wake up late. And I was looking at the amount of work you are doing with the Tomorrow Trust, the stuff you are doing with the IQers, Partners for Possibility, the National Mentorship Trust. Please give us an idea. What drives you? Why do you want to help so many young people?
Well, Milton, we are, as an organisation, my day job is as CEO of IQ Business, and we have a team of just over 1,000 IQers, as you say, or team members that are in Johannesburg and Cape Town and work all over sub-Saharan Africa. And our philosophy and approach as an organisation is that we are a for-profit business, an enterprise, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in terms of being in the business of generating a profit. And for that matter, if we didn't generate a profit, then we wouldn't be in business. But we very much believe that a focus purely on profit and not understanding purpose is meaningless in today's world. And for that matter, if we were to switch much more to purpose and not consider the profit motive of our business, then that's admirable, but it's not sustainable. And so we've got to get the balance right. And the balance we talk about is being an organisation that generates profit for purpose. And that purpose extends itself through many of the things that we that we undertake and that we do. And I know, Milton, it sounds like I'm the busiest person in the organisation. And for that matter, I've always had a belief that if you want something done, you give it to a busy person. You don't give it to somebody that's not doing anything. And I also very much believe that if you want to do something, you'll find the time for it. And that's vitally important, I think, in terms of getting the focus right and the ambition right. And so you mentioned that we engage with organisations that the ones you've mentioned are very much in the educational and mentorship space, which, as you say, is very much about targeting and reacting to the environment that we are in South Africa, which is, I'm ashamed of the fact that we have the #1 position in the world for the highest level of youth unemployment. Whether you believe or not the statistics, that's in the region of 75% of our young people are not in employment, education or training. That's terrible. That's absolutely abhorrent. We have to do something about that. So our engagement with the national mentorship movement, with Tomorrow Trust, with Partners for Possibility, is to really tackle that problem. But if I can balance the argument just for a moment, Milton, that there's very much a focus on back to that profit with purpose cycle. Raymond Ackerman, the founder of Pick and Pay, had a very well-known saying that doing good is good for business. And what he meant by that was that you can actually, if you invest in tackling some of these challenges or supporting individuals that perhaps are not in active pursuit in the economy, it can actually be good for your business. And what Raymond was talking about was that, if he can help people that are homeless, that haven't got food, and help them find their way and they become economically active, they can become his customers because they'll walk in the door and they'll start buying his produce again. And if there are more customers, then his business does better. So that's the philosophy we've taken to heart, is that as a services business, those 1,000 IQers, we need more. We need to double that size, triple that size, quadruple it, keep going. And we need the education system and the finishing schools of the National Mentorship Movement and other organisations like that to bring us more talent so we can grow our business. So we're not waiting for the education system to deliver that for us sitting at the end of the pipe. We're going back in and saying, well, what can we do in partnership with the Tomorrow Trust, in partnership with Partners for Possibility, with National Mentorship Movement, to help advance more talent into the economy, because then our business will grow.
That's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen. So when I grew up, I had someone who was my mentor. And, in township, when you speak English, everybody buys you beer, right? So this guy would sit in the cabin and just do his English thing. And each time I said, oh, brother, how do we do this? You don't need eyes to have vision, Melite. That's vision. You don't need eyes to have vision. This is really thinking ahead, right? And not waiting for government to do something. Here we have people like Adam who are doing this with many others who are working with him. So thank you to IQ Business. And I think it's also an opportune moment to say thank you to Old Mutual to being a partner here with us at Unleashing Leadership Potential, and they're also part of the National Mentorship Movement. So thank you, Old Mutual. In case I didn't mention it, here it's on the record. Thank you, Old Mutual. And I want to go back to Thabo. No hard questions.
It's okay.
I did promise.
I've made peace.
I'm quite fascinated by when you get to university and you are learning, you are in mechanical engineering, and you end up going and you know so much, you are young, and you get to the mines, to De Beer mines, right? And you find these old timers who never went to university, and you start learning from them. Tell us about that. That's quite fascinating for me. Because when you come from university, you think you are the bee's knees or you are cheese on toast. But actually, you learn from those that are with you with more humble backgrounds, shall we say.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to the story. There's good learning, and there's other aspects that later in life I realized that was not good. So I think, I maybe a bit of a context. I got a bursary from DBS, which at the time, from the townships of Mabopane, we the journey to even get to that bursary was a year long, with multiple tests, different locations. So from national all the way to this cohort that then they could be sponsored. So, you fought through to get it to the other end. You fight through to get post-varsity. And then when you get to the world of work, you think that's it. I made it. I've got a degree. I'm an engineer. And then first day on the job, you get given overalls. Because the assumption was that I'm going to get an office, make some decisions. I was given a hard hat, overalls, gumboots, and at the time a rescue pack, an oxygen tank, and then they say go underground. And here is another 2-year program on really to make you an engineer, because you thought you were, no, you have to learn again. So it was a grueling process, testing two things. And you actually later find out about it. The first one was technical application, and this application requires you to be a lot more humble because you were learning from an artisan. You were learning from an artisan assistant or a handyman. So when you get there the first year, you don't understand that the humility you come across will give you that access to the experience that is there, that you don't have, that, by the way, in a few years when you're managing them, you will need. So that was the first thing that which was positive. Then the second aspect, so the technical part, you get it through that. Then the second part around it was really around the mechanics of working in the mine, understanding the discipline of pitching up at work, the politics of managing stakeholders up and down. And the one aspect also which was later not good was managing by fear. So, and I never really told the story, but there was, after 2 years, you'll normally get promoted because you're done with the formal program. And I didn't. I didn't get promoted. I've served or I've assisted lots of engineers when they go on leave. I would run their sections, and they would congratulate you ran it well, but I never got promoted. Until one day, I was managing one of the sections, and in the morning meeting, you start banging your fist on the table. You usher a few French words to really get action. And that afternoon, they called me in and said, congratulations. I couldn't get us a word. Then it came to me that in order to succeed in that environment, the fear and the ability to show and get everybody to be attentive to you, or at least scared of you, was quite a leadership trait, which is the part that later I learned it doesn't work. It's just not sustainable and so on. So that was the one part around the mines that it always brings fond memories. But it also helps me around being humility, being humble, and always being closer to where the action is or where the real work happens, to try and understand, especially where you're quite far removed. Some of the decisions you make have, multiple ramifications on where it's supposed to be, make a positive change on. So it's important that you understand that.
That's beautiful. You know, so I spend a lot of time working in television news. So when you hear something on the radio, you must think, will it work for TV? So if someone says, oh, I banged my hand on the table, but you must visualize, boom, you're like, I'm in, send the camera. Okay, so it's very interesting the way you tell the story, because you start to visualize it, you start to imagine it, and then you bring it to life. You go to the person, you say, show us how you bang the table, and then they bang the table, and then the picture, boom, is out. Okay, Adam, can I come to you and ask you just that simple question about, I know your passion is about youth and helping, etc. But what drove you at a personal level, from your own background, to get to where you are?
Well, Milton, it's very interesting listening to our colleagues' stories and backgrounds, and there are many parallels, many similarities that really we could connect on further. But obviously, I mean, you said in the introduction, I was brought up in the UK and I went to university in the UK, but I was the first family member in my entire family to go to university. And I'd actually lost both of my parents in my youth, and I'm one of 4 children, siblings together. And I was very fortunate, similarly to Thabo, that a company sponsored me to go to university. And part of that relationship with the company was that I was assigned an executive mentor in the company. And I had to work for a year before I could go to university and return every long holiday to work in the company to get more experience. And then once I graduated, I was required to do a further year. So it was really a 5-year process. And that experience in my formative years, in my education, in the what was very much a lucky break, but as I reflected afterwards, the opportunity to have a mentor who was an individual that had been working at the company for 40 years was just remarkable. And the ability to see forward where he was and to learn from him was just so pivotal in the direction that I took. But that formative stage was then, I guess, amplified at different stages in my career. And I found myself actually a few weeks back talking to 60 interns at IQ Business that have joined our organization on a year-long internship. And I realized as I was talking to them that they were essentially 30 years behind me.
Yeah.
And that was really frightening. I can tell you as I looked at them in the audience. But what actually helped me was that I knew after that meeting I was going to see my mentor. And I have several mentors. And this particular mentor is a man called Colin Hall. And he used to be the chairman of Woolworths, Wooltree. And in his career, he was the CEO of South African breweries. And Colin is 83 years old. So I was going from a meeting with a group of young 20-year-olds 30 years behind me to a meeting with my mentor who's 30 years ahead of me. And that's really an amazing and very privileged position to be in, to be able to leverage those experiences. But it's also a major driving point in terms of my own desire to fulfill the values that I live and breathe as a set of values that are very personal to me in the context of the values in the organization which I happen to lead at this point. And the focal point really is, as a CEO, that I cannot afford, or I will not, simply just focus on running the enterprise. I have to be a conscious leader. I have to understand the context of the environment that I find myself in, that I chose to come to South Africa from the UK to be part of my life. So I need to be part of the changes, the opportunities, the challenges that we have around us. And that's really what has driven me to do what I do on a daily basis.
That's fantastic. You know, this is so brilliant. It reminds me of so many inspirational stories, but also it reminds me of how much we always learn about people leaving South Africa because it's all going down. Here we're sitting with a British man. He chose to come here. Okay, so while you read this, there's a lot else going on. So don't take one block of information. Try to get as much information as possible from all angles, because this is such an educational moment. Because when we sit there, we're thinking, yo, brain drain, they are leaving. Meanwhile, Adam chose to come here. And in fact, I heard this story from someone in America who went from India. He was saying he's more American than the guy who's born there because he chose to go there. So if you're born here, well, you're born here, right? But if you choose to come here, the commitment is quite colossal, I think. So thank you, Adam. Please call others to come. We want more Brits. We want more Asians. We want more Africans. We are a welcoming country. You can cut that the way you want. I also want to mention, in case you're not aware, the chairman of ULP is here with us, Professor Maurice Radebe, who is an inspiration. And he is such a wonderful, wonderful mentor and leader, and he's led in so many areas. It's good to have you here, Baba, even though this is your place, but it's good to have you here tonight. We're trying to inspire ourselves here. We came for inspiration. So we want to appreciate those who've gone before us, where we want to go, and to learn from their journeys. Edith, I'm back to you. I'm very keen to hear about your mathematics Olympiad in partnership with Mzuzu University. What are you trying to achieve there?
The Mathematics Olympiad, we have run this program for a few years now. Essentially, we are looking at secondary school students to try to interest them in the field of mathematics. It's an area that we feel that we need to do and encourage more youths to come through, especially in our public school systems. You find that people would rather take what we call the easier side. I don't know whether it's easy or not. And maybe the mathematics side is not a focus area. We have, over the years, taken through this program quite a number of youths, females, males alike, and some of them have actually quite made a significant impact, even post the secondary school education, post their graduate their college years. We feel that it is one way of not just focusing on math, but also instilling confidence in the youth so that they can actually start to appreciate the kind of skills and capabilities that they have. They can nurture them and grow and be able to influence and also contribute to the development of the society at large.
And you hope that these young mathematicians are going to do what? What do you want them to do in the end?
We are a society or a country that is developing. We want to see through this program to see individuals that can contribute through various innovations in the society. But apart from that, I think it is the self-belief that these youths can have as they grow out and go out into the society to contribute. It is quite amazing each year to see. Normally we have cohorts of about 100 or so youth from across the country. They come through. As soon as you actually take them through the program, you can actually see the level of confidence that is imparted in the youth. As they grow out, this confidence, we actually see the amazing contribution that it actually does. We have some notable individuals in our society that are currently even running businesses, running companies that have gone through the Old Mutual Mathematics Olympiad. And we are proud as Old Mutual to have been part of their journey in the contribution to the nation.
That's fantastic. Thank you. We're so proud of what you're doing. We wish you all the success and all those at Mzuzu University as well who are strengthening your resolve. Thank you so much. Thabo, can I come to you and ask you about energy solutions? You know, we've got load shedding, we've got all sorts of things going on, and you're sitting here, you know all this stuff, and I don't know why I'm getting load shedding. What is the solution? I know you are more interested in regional energy solutions. In fact, I think you call it, tell me, you call it regional power grid or something like that?
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the idea that because I sit at home and there's no power, I just want you to fix ESCOM. But is that the right way to think about it?
I think in the short term, you would need electricity. But I think perhaps it helps to think of it a bit broader because it's a couple of interconnected elements regarding energy solutions. One of the critical things that perhaps maybe the question is, how do we solve it? One of the critical things that we need to think about is what I was talking to someone about, which is quite topical, is the energy trilemma. So the need to have energy that is reliable, energy that is affordable, but also sustainable. And when you try and think of it that way in the economic terms, so in a trilemma, the best you could do is two. You can get the best, you can pair two permutations, but the third one would have to fall off.
Speak slower, please.
So in other words, if you're trying to if you're trying to have an energy, if you're trying to balance for energy that is reliable but sustainable, it will not be affordable. And either way you slice it, you would end up with one of them falling off. I think the conversation in our country we need to have, we're being caught where we are currently. We've got quite a high fossil fuel type of energy. The world is moving into a different direction. if we don't sit and understand, or at least appreciate the fact that if we don't do anything, perhaps in the next 10 years, drastically to alter our fortunes, we will probably be cut out in the global trading or even the economy. Because whoever else we want to partner and work with is decarbonizing themselves. So one of the critical conversations we need to have is what is our journey and what is our hierarchy of priorities? Either we focus on energy security, but with a foresight for sustainability, but there has to be something that kicks off first. So, without getting into technicalities, you often hear people argue technology. We must have more PV, we must have more wind. No, actually, don't decommission ESCOM. We need gas. And I think it's perhaps that's a secondary conversation on the technology. The first one needs to be, what is our guiding principle in ensuring that we have energy? And I think that will help. Quite something that is topical is, which I'll touch on, is the Russian-Ukraine dynamics, where you start to see Germany come out a lot more boldly around how they would try and create flexibility around this dependency they have from Germany. And they were very clear. They came out that renewables will accelerate renewables, but they understand that we need base load and there's power that you have to look at. Then they come up with principle statements around energy security is going to be something which is for us of principal importance. Now, what does that mean? It means that we'll do whatever we have to do, yes, in sight of the sustainability and the climate targets we talk about, but we first have to make sure we have energy. And I think this is, for me, the firm belief that we need to get past, that our first priority needs to be, we have to have energy that is reliable. Industry depends on it. Livelihoods depend on it. You cannot even sustain some of the jobs that we talk about if you don't have a reliable energy supply. So I think that perhaps starting there, and then we can talk about how technologies can help us to achieve that, will be a useful conversation.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, because I'm just thinking in my small little mind about what is required. But I like the idea that we must think more broadly, because there is that sort of South African thing, sort of inward looking. We need our ESCOM, and that's it. But if Lesotho is not having enough energy, if Swaziland or Eswatini does not have enough energy, it doesn't really help for us to have energy. As they say, you can't go to bed, you can't sleep if your neighbor goes to bed hungry. Should I stay with you, Thabo, because I'm also interested in your slightly personal regime. I like the idea. Do you wake up at 5 a.m., I'm told? I like the idea that you have your cup of coffee much later. Can you just share with us? Some of us don't know what to do when we wake up in the morning. We listen to the radio. Yeah. We're just messing around, Mm-hmm. So maybe your guidance might lead us to some form of discipline.
Yeah, sure. I think it is probably less about the regime that I follow, but about something that I realized, because you have to spend a bit of time doing some introspections and learning you. And one of the things that I learned and tried to follow is my energy pattern right through the day. Maybe it's the same as others, but typically I'm not a morning person, by the way. Even though I wake up at 5, I'm not a morning person. But I understand that if I do that, it's able to give me and sustain the energy patterns that I need to get through the right through the day, and also it keeps me energized and so on. So one of the things that you will do, you will start off with a bit of a meditation, which is the quieter periods of the morning. could be anything from spiritual or, but really around trying to get in tune with your body and so on. Some do it through exercise and so forth. And then normally my pattern starts off a bit low, it picks up during the day, run about mid-morning or so, and then it tapers down a little bit in the afternoon, and then I have a spike in the evening, which is quite strange. So normally when people try and go to sleep, I have higher energy, and that's when I do a lot of the deep work. A lot of the deep work happens in that time because it's quieter and so on. But that region for me helps me from energy. I understand and also can structure my work around that energy cycle that I have. So early mornings, normally it's a thinking piece because it's quite early and quiet. But then in the evening, it's more around either journaling or either writing or a bit of a concentration work that I do. And then right through the day, it's really around interacting and so on.
And there's a bit of running as well.
There's a bit of running, which I try. Sometimes you have to do it in the evenings just to squeeze through some of the day.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And Adam, I suppose you getting a job with your dog already tells us part of your regime. Is there anything you want to share that helps people to get into the right frame of mind so that they can achieve what they need to achieve? Sometimes if you're not really careful, you can be haphazard and kind of miss your alignments, as they say.
Well, I must say there's conversations that Thabo and I need to have and share, and he's clearly an energy man in more ways than we know. But I think routine and structure is very important, and I'm very lucky that I have a gym at home, and I'm able to get up, and there's no queue or there's no access or anything. I can get straight into my gym. But I vary what I do. I get bored very quickly, and I don't repeat what I do. And interestingly, I was very interested, Thabo, you talking about meditation, that one of my routines, in fact, on a Thursday morning, is that I do a deep meditation, partly because my energy cycle in the week, rather than the day, when I get to the sort of the Thursday threshold, I need to recharge my batteries to get through the Thursday and Friday to finish the week strongly. And I was very, very fortunate that in 2018, IQ Business was recognized as the conscious company of South Africa. And there were 80 or so other companies, and we won. Without realizing at the awards ceremony, the prize that was awarded, and this was much to the excitement and delight of my partners at work, was to go to Bangalore in India and spend a week in an ashram, in a mind, body, and spirit rejuvenation, eating vegetarian food, not having any caffeine, no alcohol. I mean, this doesn't sound great, I guess, in terms of normal things. But learning to meditate and engaging there in a program called The Art of Living. And the reason why my partners at work thought it was quite interesting and funny was that they looked at me and said, "You meditate? Good luck with that." And it was absolutely life-changing in terms of what I learned and the structure of the meditation process and as you say, Thabo, how to bring focus and how to be present, how to clear one's head of all of the noises and interruptions and challenges that one faces on a daily basis, and actually learn how to reach a point of presence that really is so helpful in terms of putting the week or the challenges or the opportunities into context. So that's become very much part of my routine, my energy charge, my battery that I build. And if I may say just one other thing, that I mentioned my mentor, Colin, and Colin very much focuses on the fact that each one of us has a battery, and only we can charge that battery. And we know pretty much among us what it is that helps us to do that, whether it is meditating or doing exercise or socializing or reading a book or whatever it is that does that, that helps one to restore. And we have an energy program at IQ Business and an energy hub, which is led by Colin and his son Steve, that really helps our IQers to understand and surface what it is that they need to charge their batteries, to come to work, to be fully energized and do what they need to do. And it's a very, very powerful concept.
Well, that's what a lesson, what a lesson. We are now coming to the end of this part of the conversation. We'll be moving to Q&A. And after Q&A, we have Mahlomula Mashweng, Senior Financial Education Learning Leader at Old Mutual, who will answer a few financial learning, financial education questions. So we are now opening up the floor for you to ask questions. I already have questions from people online. So let's see whether you would beat them with your questions, or they are already so much ahead. They're dropping in very thick and fast. But before that, I want to ask Edith about your own routine that can help us, just as we had here on the panel, what you think gives you your mojo back.
Yeah, listening to Tabo and Adam, I think I'm learning that, yes, I think we all need to recharge our own batteries. And for me, I also have a similar routine. I like to wake up quite early. I go for a run. I think for me, a run energizes me. Once I sweat it out, I have that shower, I find that I get energized throughout the day. If I miss out on that routine, I think Tabo said, routine is very important. If I miss out on that routine for quite a number of days, I find that I'm usually off track in terms of what I need to do. So having the space in the morning to run, to just think, to be in a space where I'm alone and think through whatever I have to think through really energizes me. And I find that takes me, I have quite a lot of energy throughout the day if I have that morning run.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I go to the first question from Tsepo Mongalo. To be classified as a CEO with a purpose, do you have to be in an organization in which you are following your passion as you pursue your purpose? Who wants to go first? Adam.
I'm happy to. That's a great question. Yeah. What a wonderfully thought through question. And I'll answer it perhaps, Milton, in this way. That is that most organizations have a value system or a set of values. Many of them put them at the front door or in the boardroom or hand them out to their employees and say, these are our values. Some organizations select people by interviewing them, asking them to align with the values that they're coming through to. And one of the individuals that we've been working with is a gentleman in the US called Stan Slapp. And Stan has a very strong belief, and he's written several amazing books around the principle that actually you need to ask the individual what their values are. And the individual needs to come into the work environment and not simply comply with the values in the work environment, but to work in a way that they are able to realize their values. Because if they are able to do that, then you're going to get something really exceptional from them. And so increasingly, that's what we look for. And it is important that they should feel some alignment with the collective values of the organization. But it doesn't mean that they have to have one of ours as one of theirs. It means that there just must be that synergy or alignment between them. And for us, it's so vitally important that we achieve our purpose as an organization, which is to grow people, grow business, and grow Africa. And if that inspires people to come to IQ Business, to want to be part of that growth and to bring and realize their values, then it really is a powerful combination. So that's my response to the question, and I hope that provides a perspective.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. That's so insightful. Yeah.
I wouldn't add much, but I think the one thing that is true for me, and just to add on to what Adam said, it's the sync. If your belief system and the values that you're in the organization with, or organization that you're going to join or that you already belong in, are in sync, then you're okay. If a mismatch happens, then you really need to reconsider. Because you're going to be miserable, your energy and your balance will be off-killed. So that's the only portion out there.
And actually, I have a question for you, which is from Emmanuel Zulu. Tabo, he says, in your opinion, he's on fire. What are the reasons for the current unemployment rate in South Africa? And especially among the youth with education, and what can be done to alleviate the problem?
That's quite a tough question, but I'll share my perspective, and I think there's multiple instruments we could look at. One of the things that I've always believed in, and I still, even till today, is that Africa needs to industrialize. I think if we want to really get into economic growth trajectory, start to tackle unemployment, we need industries. You could argue whether are those technological or not, but that's neither here or there. But the issue is industrialization. And if you then look at why we're not industrializing, I think there's a couple of reasons. One is, Emmanuel mentions education. I think just immediately after education, there's skills. In a technical space, each year we take a couple of students, graduates. Immediately he says, I've done electrical engineering, or you put him in front of an equipment or he goes to site. You then tend to realize the skills gap. Or the formal academic education and the applicability of what industry requires. So that's the gap that we really need to tackle. And it's quite unfortunate sometimes that you find someone with an exceptional career, master's, cum laude. I get to a power station and, the skill set doesn't match. You can't help it. So part of, without going too long there, I think one of those issues is we need to really get the practical skill set. So internships and all these opportunities, we really need to do that. Because out of that, you can either decide to carry on in employment route or SMMEs, businesses, and so on. Because that's one challenge. The other issue, I think, around industrialization is infrastructure. And my issue there, I think, some of it is, it's not a lot of around policy, but I think sustained policy. We don't stay the course or make adjustments in order to see through to the end results that we're looking for. So my perspective around that is around skill set, and I think policy, a sustained policy, is one of the things that tends to trip us when it comes to unemployment. There could be other factors, but these are the ones that I think we really also need to pay attention on.
Stamina, yeah. But that's what you are trying to do at Vets Business School, isn't it, Prof?
Yeah.
You're trying to link the skills that are needed out there to the stuff that you are learning, so that you don't produce the guy who gets to the power, did you say power station? And he doesn't know what to do. So that's very much in sync with what you are working on. So thank you for that. I'll take a question from the floor. If there's any hand high enough for me to see.
Sure, there's lots of hands.
Okay. Let's start. He started first. Okay, so let's go.
These guys are going to pass at the end of the day, they're going to come and join your company. Do you want an engineer that has passed mathematics by 30% to come and work in the power station? What is your influence as captain of the industry into this education system? Because really, to me, it's a very difficult thing to swallow. And as a result, I've taken my kids out of school. I'm doing homeschooling, so I can teach my kids the proper way. So I don't want a person who has passed mathematics in 30% to come in and teach my kids things that really they're not going to help them. So that's my question.
No, thank you. Can I put a health warning? Don't go and take your kids out of school unless you know what you're doing. Thank you so much, sir. Yes. Or should we take maybe 3, right? Yeah. Let's do 3. Yeah. And then we will then get the answers. Edith, I hope you are recording the questions so that you can also help to answer them. Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, and thank you so much for setting this up. My name is Marie. I run a business called IMS Powerhouse Consulting. And so when you speak about purpose, I'm sitting at the edge of my chair and I'm kind of excited because I think that is such a key topic to talk about. But I don't want to talk about purpose in a way that's ephemeral. I really want to speak around what does it mean from a decision-making perspective? Because we touched a little bit around ethics and values. And so I would love for you to share what are some of the trade-offs that you've had to encounter because you're a values or purpose-driven organization. Because I think that's very valuable, and I appreciate that you've told some personal stories. But I would love to hear around, as a business, what are those trade-offs you've had to make because you're purpose-driven?
Thank you. Last one on the floor. Yes?
Evening. Thank you for this forum and just for the great opportunity of gleaning into your collective wisdom, colleagues. My name is Lucy Balimba, and I am privileged to lead a strategic communication consultancy called Entelo Strategic Comms. My question is perhaps more directed towards you, Adam, but really to the rest of our colleagues here on the panel. So this week I was going through just my reads, and I came across an opinion piece by you in the Business Day about the social compact, right? So I really, it stuck with me, and for a couple of reasons. But I also want to just pose this argument, particularly because you are all leaders and credible pioneers in your own spheres, and you have vocal cords that can really kind of outlive certain boundaries when it comes to shifting the needle on key socioeconomic issues in this country. When we look at the backdrop of our backyard as a South African collective, we understand that there are many issues that we can shred, right? Youth unemployment is at 66.5%. There's GBV, there's a lot that's going on in the country. But also we're all suffering from the residue of corruption, right? And we could even call it, fiscal decadence of the last 10 years, where leaders are quietly putting things into their own pockets at the expense of the very least in society. Is it fair And I think to your opinion piece again, you really spoke effusively about how our social contract is in shreds. And I agree. But is it fair then, in understanding our issues in South Africa, to still kind of conceive of the concept of a social contract as just inclusive of business, government, and labor? And I say this because it's a bit of a paradox, right? We talk about labor, but we have a very able labor force that is unemployed. And connected to that, I think, Thabo, to your point, there's a critical issue around unemployability in our country, right? Is it fair then for us to almost, in the spirit of talking about all this verbiage of social inclusion and inclusive economic growth, to not, or could we possibly consider integrating another invisible force or perspective in our understanding of what a social compact is for the South African landscape, right? So, because we don't have labor, labor doesn't have a voice. Corruption has delegitimized our power as people to formally affect ourselves in the macroeconomic, in the formal economy, right? So like Adam Smith talks about the invisible hand of the economy. Is there an opportunity for us to take a deeper and more conscious glance in the spirit of talking about purpose on what that could mean for a South Africa to recraft a narrative, to reimagine the tenets of what it means to have a social compact in the South African context? What about the 70% of youth that do not have that socioeconomic legitimacy? Should we maybe include them in our understanding of what a social compact is for a South Africa that we live in? I think for me that's the argument that I just, because then we could probably create better policies and consciously think better towards contributing purposefully.
Very good.
Thank you. Sorry for that long.
Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. That's what we're here for. So thank you for sharing that. That was very insightful. And I did read the piece from your Twitter handle. I found it. So thank you. And I'm enjoying the Twitter timeline. So if you're not following Adam, I don't know where you want to be. So his handle is, and I'm sure he would be much happy to support me in this. It's Crackerus. So
that's my initial, so it's at Craker AS.
Yes,
Craker
yes.
AS.
So sorry, did that come out wrong?
Yeah.
But yes, so it's Craker S. So
yes.
Please, or you can just hit Adam Craker, you'll see it, and he's blue ticked. So we're happening. But you mentioned earlier about influencers. We're not talking about Instagram, right? We're talking about the real influencers. Okay, so who wants to go first? 3 questions. Should we say, for a change, Edith, that you lead us from Malawi, please? Pick any question that you think you'd
yes.
like to tackle.
Yeah, I think I would tackle the question where business, what trade-offs are we taking from an ethical perspective? I think for me, being in a business that actually looks at being a responsible business, I have actually seen this in action, sometimes to the point where you actually take some serious decisions, whether it means pulling out a product because maybe it is not, maybe the understanding in that target market is not quite right, whether it means that you actually need to invest in certain segments, quite a lot of resources just to make sure that you actually up the understanding or capabilities or skill or knowledge in the financial services sector. I think I have seen such decisions being taken, and I actually appreciate being part of a business that is so socially conscious. It's not just about following the law, but it's actually about honoring and respecting the societies that we are operating in.
Yeah, maybe I'll take a stab at both. Two questions on the education one, the 30%. I don't have a TV at home, and it's a purpose. There's a reason behind. Not that I don't watch. I try and catch up, but there's a lot of what goes on in the media that tends to be destructive. It's distracting as well in what we need to do. So an engineer at 30% is not possible. It's not going to happen. But I also don't think that should be the benchmark, and that should be the target. So you can talk about 30%. What we should be talking to those kids about is 70%, 80% plus. Forget the 30. That's not for you. You need to be aiming somewhere else. So I think it starts, which is positive, that you're taking an active role to try and elevate that. But I think there are also other avenues that we look at, or at least I try and support. And one of those that has done well for me was the Saturday school. There's a lot of programs that used to happen in the townships where, they would take one of the universities on a Saturday, a couple of youth, either in tertiary, would come and augment that which you didn't do during the week. I always tell people that I didn't do trigonometry in matric, by the way. I learned trigonometry from the Saturday school. I didn't have a teacher who could do that. So I think the first part is those kind of systems, ecosystems, they need to be supported, they need to be nurtured and defended. The other aspect for me that I quite support a lot is around technology. Getting kids to get, I'm not talking about them watching YouTube and videos, but really to start learning coding and technologies of the future. Because then they have something that they can work with, a skill that they can apply and so on. So I think if you're trying to rely on the current system of education to try and project what the future might look like, it will not work. So we're going to have to try different things. And some of them are available thanks to the internet as well. The second one around purpose, from a decision perspective, I can tell you one that is unequivocally clear for me, is around ethics. So from a purpose perspective, as we've, and ever since I've been, in corporate sector, I've only been in an entity or in a space where we can do clean business. And that informs how we make decisions, that informs how we either side with the partner or with the business or not. And there are no trade-offs. It's as clear as it is from our side. And I think one of the realizations around purpose and in the organization, people don't want they don't want to regress. They would want to prosper and so on. And if you look at what unethical behavior has done in our society, you soon realize that it's a very slippery slope. And I think it's something that we really need to put in the back of our heads and hopefully try and assist others to drive into that direction.
Yeah, thank you.
Milton, if I may, I'd like to make a comment on all three, but
yes.
I'll make it as quickly as possible if I may. And the first, from an education perspective, you're asking, well, what more can business do to improve that 30%, that pass rate? And the example I spoke about earlier on, Partners for Possibility, is just such a great way of business engaging with the education system, because it recognizes that in our public schools, there is a principal or a headmistress or headmaster in that school. And that person is no longer a teacher, they're an enterprise leader. The school requires staff in terms of teachers, rosters, bills to be paid, provisions to be in place. all before the kids come into the school to learn. And what Partners for Possibility realised was that business can play a direct role in working, in pairing a business leader with a school leader and partnering over a period of time to really develop the enterprise. Because if the enterprise is well run, I would argue if you go to many of the examples of public schools, the pivotal person is the school principal. If you have a good school principal who understands how to run their enterprise, then the rest of things will begin to fall into place in these challenging environments. So that's my answer to that question. I think we can do much more of that to partner between business and the school principals to help that advance. Maria, your question on purpose and how it leads to decisions, I think that flow. And I'm reminded here that just over 2 years ago, when President Ramaphosa announced that we were entering a national state of disaster in the country, in that week we had a few days between the announcement that we're in a state of disaster and then the commencement of the first lockdown period. In that week, we had to think very, very fast about what it is that we needed to do to respond to this diabolical situation. And it was very similar to the kind of the metaphor of you're driving down the road, and as you come down the highway, you see in the distance lots of blue lights and activity. And as you arrive, you realize that you've arrived at the scene of a major road accident. And in fact, you're one of the first people to arrive there. And you have three choices. You put your car into reverse and you get as far away from there as possible. You sit in your car and you allow the emergency services to do their thing and perhaps just freeze at the wheel and watch. Or you get out of the car and you run towards the problem to see what you can do to help people in that environment. And what was very natural for us in that circumstance of that period between the announcement and the imposition was we got out and we ran towards the problem, almost without thinking at all. And afterwards, we only realized that what guided the direction was our purpose, because it was so ingrained, we didn't have to think, we just acted naturally. And we formed an organization called COBRA, the COVID Business Rescue Assistance Initiative. We attracted 90 other organizations to partner with us, and we helped 570 companies that were in distress during the 2 years of lockdown. So a very natural response, and that's what's really led from our purpose. And then the question in terms of, thank you very much for reading the article. You're the first person that I've met that's actually read it, other than Milton, who's done his research. But you're so right about the compact and what I emphasized in that article was basically that we need a new compact, we need a new frame of reference between business, government and labour that needs to come together like never before. And you're absolutely right that they're not the only stakeholders. If we think about the role of the academic institutions in the country, what a massive role that the academic institutions play in really partnering there. But we've had years of mistrust between business and government, for example, and labour has always mistrusted business and has played a role in there. So we have to overcome that mistrust. And if we're going to do something about the challenges that we face, we need to partner and collaborate and form a compact like never before. But you made me think, really think about the articles. What I said in the article at the end was that actually it's not about these collectives, it's about thinking about your own response. What is it that each and every one of us is going to do to contribute to that energy and drive as we pull ourselves out of this diabolical cycle of economic contraction and ethical challenge and corruption? It's all about what each and every one of us do. So that's the unit, not the collectives, but think about what you do first, and then we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I'm going to give you about 3 in a row. I see Saki Munacheng is on fire. He is asking, my question to Adam is, what do they do in his organization to grow young entrepreneurs to become employers so they can assist in reducing unemployment? And Mandela Choka or Thioka, what is the hardest part of leadership that the panel has experienced on their way up? There's your chance to talk about BP there, Edith. Nomtan Doni Andrews, how important is mentorship in one's career, especially as a young professional? I mean, Nomta, I asked that question about the mechanic, the uncle, but he will answer it directly to you. And then Saki is also asking, Tabo, I'm worried about the youth that does not have education. What do you think we can do to assist them? You kind of touched on that already, but you can feel free to respond. And Saki again, Saki Munaheng, never to be forgotten on these streets. Tabo, I'm also a young lawyer and entrepreneur, but it's so hard. Please assist with advice. You. That's a really powerful one. Right. Edith, do you want to fire your first salvo there?
Hardest part of leadership, I think 2 areas. The first one is missing out on potential opportunities that you are very sure are going to change trajectory and influence quite a lot of change, but because maybe you do not have adequate resources at that particular point. And the second one that I find, and that consistently comes through almost every day, is around where you try to balance the issue around building consensus and making sure that you use your authority. How do you balance that? In what situation? The balance tips very differently dependent on the issues that you're tackling at that particular point. And it changes all the time, but you have to apply your mind. You have to be in the moment and make the right call to say, in this case, we need to build consensus. In this particular case, I just need to move on and ensure that my authority is exercised.
Thank you. That's beautiful. So
I'm still wondering about how do I help the lawyer. I'm not sure. I thought there are so many court cases in our country at the moment. That wouldn't be a question. But I think the mentorship we touched on, but maybe I just have an additional point that sometimes I think the perception of a mentor is a person that you can see regularly. I was saying to Prof that I used to come to this session. I came once about 6 odd years ago, sitting at the back. And today we're conversing here. So the mentorship comes in different forms. Sometimes it is admiring and following someone at a distance. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of technology now. It's listening to some people's speeches on YouTube. People are connecting today. You package all these nuggets that you get, and then you constantly then reconfigure yourself and your life towards a particular direction. So I think that mustn't be too hard on ourselves that, I couldn't get to Prof. Khadebe. I really need to try harder. No. There's other avenues as well. The other one is the hardest part about leadership. This is one field that I think if you do a Google search, you'll find hundreds, if not millions, of perspectives on leadership. It's a most well-written phenomena, but least understood. It's amazing. I mean, as an engineer, I mean, it's clear. Answers are clear. I could give you to the nth decimal point what the answer needs to be, but this one is a very tough one. No one really knows. Even at a CEO level, when you get him, you don't know. I think let it not look like the hardest part or the easiest thing is you already figured it out. No, it's very tough. You don't know. But one of the other parts that is very hard on the individual is finding time to think. You actually been brought on to think, and it's very difficult to try and defend your territory and space and be able to digest, be able to reflect, and so on. I find that is a harder part of leadership that is not often discussed. And then I think on the entrepreneur itself, I don't know. I would perhaps share perspectives around how at least I have navigated it. One of them was, you have to. Yes, important to get qualifications and education, but it is not a defining moment around what you know, what you don't know. So gathering skills and continuously expanding is important. So parts of those is around networking, that I think it's intricately important. Of late today, you have to have an opinion, thought pieces that you put out and so on. That's valuable. But also provide a unique offering or unique perspective, either maybe it's to a different company and so on. Those are some of the things that could help you to stand out of the crowd that certainly have helped me in my journey.
Thank you. That's beautiful. That's good advice. And in fact, the network part, I mean, this is what is going on here. You know, you're coming here, in English they say birds of the same feather flock together. So if you're flocking around here, you're going places.
Milton, I mean, again, listening to what Tabo and Edith have highlighted is so relevant and makes me think. I mean, firstly, from the entrepreneurial the question that Saki asked, one of the things that we're deeply involved with, and Professor Radebe would be very upset if I didn't mention the Sation initiative. If you have a chance, have a look at sation.org.za, and you'll see that there's an entire ecosystem that we have established in partnership with a number of leading organizations, including Wits Business School and Wits University. And the technology is currently provided by Microsoft. And we're very, very proud of the fact that Sation has launched the Global SMME Hub with Microsoft in partnership with an organization called Thincubate that is really helping entrepreneurs and small enterprises to access digital tools, digital platforms to expand their businesses, to get online, to reach their customers more effectively. And it's a very, very exciting initiative that really is focused around harnessing the fourth industrial revolution and engaging in driving new economic growth from digitalization. And Sation, by the way, of course, is the suffix of digitalization, but it is a real word. It means a sowing or a planting. So Sation means we're sowing or planting the digital seed in South Africa. So that's one example that I would encourage you to have a look at and to access and to leverage. On the leadership dimension, what really triggered in my mind as I was thinking about this in terms of on the way up, experience that I had was that I was religious about making sure that as I developed in my career, I took opportunity to learn from as many leaders as I possibly could along the way. And I learned lots of good things and lots of bad things. And hopefully I don't keep the bad things and reapply them. But it was so important to take the opportunity to expose myself, and not only directly with leaders, but to read books and learn about leadership styles, as you say, Tawa, that's so crucial, I think, in the learning process. And then there was a final question there, which was very important to me, and it's gone out of my head at this point. It is, yes, it is age.
How important is mentorship?
Oh, well, mentorship, I mean, absolutely pivotal, but it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. I mentor a number of people. I learn so much from talking to the mentee and understanding the challenges that they face. And it's a two-way value equation. So, and it's not something that you have to just start later in life. I've been involved in mentoring and mentorship relationships throughout my career. And as I've said earlier on, still very, very important part of my career progression and direction is to really continue to do that and to enhance and to learn and to help others move forward in that regard.
The other thing I follow as a practice, you don't. It's not just ingrained in you when you are born, right? You learn this thing because you want to change the trajectory of your life. I do not like negativity, darkness. When you start being a little bit negative, I'm gone. Yeah. And that's why I love Professor Khateb. I've never heard him say anything negative about it. He's just trying to move forward all the time. He's moving forward. If you want to start besmirching people's careers, names, gossip, drama, well, you'll be left by the roadside. So this place is about positivity, energy, the right energy. And then suddenly everything falls into place.
Watson, can I say, I mean, as you've said that, drawing upon the challenge that you have to help our budding attorney and help him move forward, it's quite interesting. There's a lot of negative perspective on the future of the legal profession and the fact that artificial intelligence is pretty much going to replace the role that many of our legal practitioners play in remembering case history and the computer can really deliver that outcome very, very quickly. And one could go into a bit of a negative spin around that. But I'd like to suggest to, I think it was Saki, wasn't it? Saki, yeah. That is our attorney out there, that actually there's one of the greatest opportunities of positivity that is ahead, and that's to embrace the fourth industrial revolution and to understand that blockchain and cryptocurrency and the non-fungible token environment is one of the most fantastic opportunities for the legal fraternity, other than the NPA right now could do with some help and we need to get prosecutions going. But right now, I don't know if you saw 2 weeks ago, we were involved in the auction of the arrest warrant for Nelson Mandela. And the arrest warrant is held at Lily's Leaf Farm, and it's a physical docket that was signed to go and arrest Nelson Mandela. We have taken with our partners through the Sation ecosystem. Partners have scanned the document into a hologram, so you can literally look at it in digital form. And it has been represented as a unique digital format, and it was auctioned as a non-fungible token.
NFT.
And it raised 1.9 million rand. So somebody bought the digital version, not the real version. The real version is still sitting in Lily's Leaf, but they've bought the digital version for 1.9 million rand. Why on earth would they do that? And you've got to understand that behind the scenes, to get that document scanned, validated, the contracts done, there's a whole legal team that are expert in understanding that process. And they've put that together. And then, I mean, what an amazing thing. It's now in the metaverse. Yeah. and somebody is proudly sitting in their virtual world with the one version of the Nelson Mandela arrest warrant. Nobody else has it, and the legal construct makes sure that it can never be sold again. But I'm sorry, let me correct that. It can never be repeated again. It can be sold on to somebody else, and every time it gets sold on, Lily's Leaf gets some more value from that. So what an amazing opportunity for budding attorneys. Go learn about it. And there's a fabulous book, actually, by Stephen Sidley called Beyond Bitcoin. Fantastic South African author, and really does teach the future of where this is going to.
Yeah. In fact, people are buying land on Metaverse. So if you are still trying to get into deep slot, well, well, that's your issue. Adam, I wanted to bring you to something else, which I'm now sort of reversing my promise that I was finished, but I wanted to, we're talking about all systems, how to map your way up the ladder. But there's something you are doing which I found quite interesting, and this is the Children's Cancer Charity. We've got to have compassion. We don't just lead at a technical level with the mechanics and the calculations. We're human beings. We feel, we love, we cry, we get hurt, and we need to help those who are battling with disease and many other social ills as well. And I was quite I had a special little interest in that because my boss at home is helping kids to, survive, and great interest. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the Children's Cancer Charity and how it started? I love the story of how it started.
Well, the linkage here, Milton, is to when we've created the environment at IQ Business with a very clear direction on our purpose, it inspires many of our IQers and our team members to want to lead an engagement with organizations themselves. And it's one of the most powerful things that we borrowed, or some people would say stole an idea, but we borrowed an idea called the 1-1-1 approach, which is 1% of our profit, 1% of our service, and 1% of our time every year is dedicated to working with organizations to help advance them. Many times people are willing to give money to an organization or to a charity, so that's the 1% of profit element. 1% of our service is that we actually provide some of our skill and some of our billable time and some of what we do to help advance the organization. And 1% of our time is where we say to our IQers, you can take a day a year and you can dedicate that day without taking leave to an organization of your choice. And what we've found is that when those three elements work in concert together, amazing things happen. We really move forward in terms of the role that we play with the organizations that we engage with them. So over time, there's been a broadening of the organizations that we engage with, which is led by our IQers and by our team members, to a point that I've actually begun to step away from what they're doing. We have a committee that run our foundation and our engagement. They prioritize the focus. They get, as a young group of people, 1% of our profit, which is actually turning into quite a significant sum of money. And they direct it, they manage it, and they're trusted to run the governance structure and the process around that to affect change for organizations like the ones you talk about.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm inspired. I don't know about you. Now we're going to our financial education slot before we close. Mashomula Mashwing, are you with us? Remember, I introduced Mahlomola Mashweng as the Senior Financial Education Learning Leader at Old Mutual. So we're going to ask him just one or two questions, and he will answer on financial education so that you don't go and spend all your money on cryptocurrency alone in your study. I don't know why I said that. Help me, God. How can we apply the concept of purpose in our finances? Mahlomola.
Thank you very much for that question. Normally, when I talk about purpose, I normally say purpose is my why. It guides me on a day-to-day or throughout the years. And even when things are getting out of my way or not going my way, the purpose always gives me direction. It gives me stability. Meaning it gives me focus. That is why it is important to have purpose, and especially for a living. If you want to have a happy life, you need to have purpose. When it comes to purpose, again, we also talk about finances. Once you are managing your finances well, you will then enjoy life. It makes everything easier for you if you have a purpose. Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much. When you said happy life, I thought you said you're going to say happy wife, happy life. But please highlight some of the things you are doing as a business for clients.
Thank you very much. As Old Mutual, we have a robust financial program called On the Money, the Big Five Secret of Money Management. When we do that program, our intention is to change the financial behavior. Remember, in South Africa, when you get your salary, we normally spend before even saving. So when we do this program On the Money, our aim is to say to our clients, when you get your salary, save before spending your money, because we do not want to see people saving money from the leftovers. That is why when we do this program, we even use the big five animals that we get on our banknotes. Like your 50 rand, get a lion. Our message is very simple. Be fearless like a lion when it comes to controlling your finances or your money. When you get your salary, you save 10%. Once we have saved 10%, we are happy. When we look at the leopard, it's all about vision. It's all about creating goals that are achievable, realistic. And when you think about your goals, you must also check whether are they achievable, measurable, and you must factor in time frame. And then when we talk about leopard again, it's when we talk about elephant, it's budget. Once you do budget as a family, if you have a partner, you spoke about a wife, you do household budget, you sit around the table as a family to plan how are you going to spend your money, how much is coming in, and where are you spending your money. And then also, how do we manage our debt? And lastly, one of the speakers spoke about one day he slept outside. And then what is like to be sleeping outside. So when you talk about Buffalo, it's all about creating a security, protecting your loved ones, protecting all your assets, providing your family with shelter, because from where I'm sitting, even your family are part of your asset. So we do this program for everyone, employees. If you are a CEO now, you are having people who are reporting to you. We are just a telephone call away to say, call us, we will come and do this On the Money program for all your employees. And remember, a happy employee will always be productive, but an unhappy employee will not be productive because they will have to deal with a lot of financial problems that will affect even their health. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we've come to the end of our discussion tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. a small little show off as I close. Edith, is your birthday on the 14th of April?
Yes, it is.
Happy birthday, because that's next week, I think, on Thursday, I think.
Yes.
Happy birthday,
That's
and thank
true.
you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Wow. That was awesome, eh? Let's give a round of applause again. Well, I'm excited that we've started this series. It's going to be a series of purpose-driven leaders, purpose-driven CEOs, purpose-driven. We'll have to get this idea of purpose ingrained, even at business school and business education now. He's leading the charge in South Africa about CEO with purpose. So even when I asked him to come and serve on MBA advisory committee, the first question he asked is, what is your purpose? So thank you very much. Let me thank everyone. Let me start with our Milton. Milton is a seasoned player. Let's give him a round of applause. The research that he's done is unbelievable. And Adam is a friend of ULP and is part of NMM. So, my friend, thank you for that, for driving purpose. Hey, you really touched me that you came and sat at the back, and now you're sitting in front. Can you believe it? Chabo. So maybe all of you sitting here, one day you will sit in front. That's an inspiration. Eh? You've inspired me, Chabo. You've energized me to even continue to do more on the ULP platform. Yeah, that's what is inspiring. So thank you very much, Edith, from the Malawi. Hey, where's Edith? I want to see you. Yeah. Hey, thank you very much, Edith. All the way. We're becoming Pan-African. And in fact, we're grappling about this because we've received a request that we should put together a ULP program. And then, let me see Edith. Edith, I'm going to give you the challenge there. We've been asked that can we consider getting the ULP and make it Pan-African? So I need your help with that idea and how we can do it. Are you taking the challenge? That's the purpose. Huh? Let's give a round of applause. Let me also acknowledge my friend here, Dave. We're working together on this partnership with all mutually collaborate. He's leading the national mentorship movement. And I'm always, it's been my coach for many years also. So he's been all over doing great work in this country. So thank you very much, Dave. I'd like to thank I no longer do work here at ULP, and Theo and Tsepo and Nono and Topo and the whole behind-the-scene team and Lerato leading this entire audiovisual. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. I've got to make some few call to action. One is we want mentors. We want mentors. If you've been at ULP and you've been sitting at the back and you now need to sit in front, we want you to be a mentor first. So, Dave, please stand up so that people can see. Where's that? The next step of the journey. Dave says, there can be no better way to continue your leadership journey than by mentoring others. What we are offering in the National Mentorship Movement, together with ULP, the opportunity to volunteer to be a mentor in a safe environment, assisting young people with challenges you have overcome. The program is at Da Vinci Institute, New Venture Creation Program beginning in May. What would you expect of you? Attend a training prior to your first mentorship meeting. co-facilitate monthly online discussions. We're using technology now to mentor with a group of 6 youth, with a fellow mentor for 2 hours per month. Remain in regular contact with students on WhatsApp. Share feedback via electronic survey on a quarterly basis. What will you get in return? You will be trained in practice, group facilitation, leadership, goal setting, communication, conflict management. Your confidence will increase, your resilience will increase, your insight in human dynamics will increase. The satisfaction of having a difference in making a difference in someone else is immense. Just like as I'm saying today, I'm just so fulfilled to hear Tabo's story. Next. Oh, Dave says I must look there. What do you do next? Express your interest. Please scan the QR code and complete a quick form. We will contact you on how to join the program. I don't know how you scan this thing. With your camera, so you'll leave it there. When you come here, you can go and scan it there. So, call for mentors, especially, and even online, please. If you've been here at ULP for the last decade now, 10 years, it's your turn to mentor somebody else. Let me also acknowledge now, I'm going to move on. I want to acknowledge somebody who's also grown up here at ULP. You'll never believe. When he approached me first, he said, I want to be mentored here at ULP. And we said, fine. He actually came to my office. And I said to him, listen, when you're mentoring, I don't want to be like me. There's something in you. You're just a political animal. So what ULP will do is just to mentor you to be an ethical, political person, because your DNA is political. So we're not going to change you. We're not going to make you a business person. And I'm glad he actually followed it. Right now, Andy, let's stand up. He's elected a councillor at Ward 99. And the number of people which have been coming here, some people who are here, some of the people that are here are coming from Villa Lisa, Windmill, and some of Tsakan. So Ward 99. One of the purpose of ULP is to take one ward in South Africa, one ward, under the leadership of ULP. And I'm inviting every one of you that we make that one ward as a microcosm of South Africa and make sure that education, community development, the program I said you should start, he said, just forget about this factional politics, man. It was Andy, focus on one thing. Just any environmental cleaning in the environment. And it's flourished. It's amazing. I go there, it energizes me. On Saturday, he gets the entire community just cleaning the place. So I'm inviting everyone, including your leadership here, support this young leader. He's a ULP, and I've charged him that I don't want to see his name on Zondo Commission. So let's give him a round of applause. We hold him accountable here. You can't be a ULP person and then be seen on Zondo Commission. I promise? Deal? Hey, comrade. Leadership. But even before he was elected today, he asked the guys to come in when he was nominated. He said, please come and speak to my mentor. And they came and spoke to me. I said, on condition that he's not going to be corrupt. You're not going to ask any deals for him. You're not going to, I'm releasing him. And he was released. So we hold you accountable here. You see, at my age, I'm Katalelo Tenjo. I'm jelly just straight. Now I'm jelly, my leader. I'm not gonna take anything about corruption on your part, Andy. I'm telling you in public here. All right. So all aspirant leaders, you're welcome. So let me do that. Mzonke, stand up. Upo Mzonke. Mzonke, how melapa? Hilka. You one of this young man. He's part of the Mutual Collaborate. And the reason why we're doing this is because we realize that financial management and financial education is something important, financial planning, so that you know, big masukugile so figure at our age la busuba uyalapha uthathe isasa ubuse queuing kasasa. There's other people that needs to go there, not you, ULP. Are you with me? You must be financially independent. Are you with me? That man's going to help you. So at the end of this session here, if you want to know anything about financial planning, anything about estate management, wills, and everything, just he's going to be here, and then he's going to, at ULP House there, you can have a cup of tea and a coffee, and he's going to sit at the lounge there. You can ask him anything about financial education. We're making this service available to you so that you can go and grow in all aspects of your life. So, I think we've come to an end. My leader, there's a hand there. She's insisting. Yeah, no, you can't stop her. She's even begging me.
Sorry, I was skipped.
Sorry, they give you a sound, please.
Is that okay? My name is Dion. I run a boys empowerment organization.
Boys.
Yes. So what we're doing is that we're fighting gender-based violence through empowering a boy child. So we want to help change the lives and the mindset of young boys in underprivileged communities. So we're based in Ivory Park, and I've been struggling with this because every time in our session, we always have sessions for boys where what we want to do is that we want to change the mindset, because I believe that in order for us to have a successful future in the countries, it's time we change the mindset of underprivileged young people. So every time we meet, I always ask them, what do you want to be? And they just say, we'll see you when time goes by. And then we have this other, I remember grade 8, I was asking them, so in grade 10, which subject do you want to choose? They're like, I'm going to see when we get there. So speaking about negativity, I've been trying to change the negative mindset that they have. But it's been a challenge because we're trying to say, dream big, dream beyond, but they're still stuck in that mini box of, I don't want to say the township, but they're just stuck in that mini box. And we're trying to get mentors to say, you know what, you can be whatever you want to be. You can dream big. You are beyond what you see in this society. But it's been a challenge. So I wanted to ask for an advice. What can I do? Because I've been struggling to get mentors for these young boys, to get men who can come and mentor these young boys, because I believe that in order for us to have a society with less gender-based violence and crime, it's time we train these young men into becoming a better man in our society.
What's your name?
Dion.
Dion, after this meeting, come, let's have a chat. And Dave, Dave will have a chat. We'll definitely assist you on that one. We'll take it as a challenge and as to help you. Thank you. Well, let me just conclude by saying thank you very much for everyone who's come here, who's participated, particularly those online. Thank you again for supporting all the work that we do. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you. Thank you very much.